Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pokondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and
All right, here we go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. I am your humble host tonight, Michael Padmore, but you can call me Ansu whenever you want. I have with me three gentlemen that hopefully we can discuss in full the topics for tonight. Our topics for tonight are going to be one, the Liberia Petroleum Refinery Corporation, the LPRC, has started to import fuel and to become a wholesaler on the fuel market in Liberia. And then tomorrow, Wednesday, by proclamation, has been declared a national holiday by the president. All Liberians are expected to visit their worship centers and pray for the country Liberia. So those are the two topics we have tonight. We hope to go in depth and discuss it at length. So first of all, let me go ahead and introduce the gentleman I have with us this evening, Abe Boyka Dukley. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to have you. Gabriel M. I'm going to call you Gabriel Tucker, man. Gabriel M. Carter, how are you doing this evening, sir?
Thank you, Michael. It's good to be here.
All right, awesome. And Jimmy Eastman, how are you doing this evening, sir?
Hey, Michael, it's always good to afford ourselves the opportunity to discuss matters important to our nation. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. Okay. So, Mr. Eastman, I will start with you. On Friday, the news hit that the Liberian Petroleum Refinery Corporation, the LPRC, had decided that they were going to start to import fuel into the Liberian market and to actually sell them to wholesalers, or they call them what's the word? They call uptakers. And a lot of people were surprised. First, because since the Unity Party government took over last January, it's been about 7-8 months, a year, 7-8 months. And within that time, we haven't had any instances of fuel shortage. There's been no discussion of even it coming close to that. And so some people wondered, what is the problem? Like what pushed this along? What were your take when you heard this for the first time?
Well, I had to first do a little bit of a real research. The Liberian Petroleum Refining Company is, as we know, is a state-owned enterprise responsible for issuing petroleum importation licenses and storing. They are also the entity primarily responsible for regulating the importation of petroleum products. So when I heard that they, being the regulators, are going to also be a market participant, I thought that would evoke a conflict of interest, and to point out what how these interests may conflict. First of all, if LPRC as a regulator, they set or they influence the rules that all must follow. All right, they enforce compliance on competitors. They have access to proprietary data of competitors, so they know when the competition is bringing in shipments, and when if their shipment is delayed, they have this proprietary knowledge, and they can potentially manipulate the market for their own benefit. So I didn't think it was proper for them to be regulators at the same time market participants. I think that it's going to lead to conflict of interest down the road. It may even discourage competition. It may discourage. I know I would be discouraged if I was an importer, and then all of a sudden, the regulatory body, the body who has to give me license, the body who has to agree for my shipment to arrive, all of a sudden they too are my competitors.
Yeah.
I didn't think that didn't sit well with me, and I think it needs to be revisited. And I think all decisions like this that will ultimately change the mandate for which these entities were created, they need to go through Senate and legislature approval, because I'm sure this thing is right in the face of the mandate LPRC was. Now,
Okay.
the Liberian Petroleum Regulatory Authority, LPRA, they're more responsible for, granting petroleum rights for exploration, look out for them. But the direct import of petroleum products, that falls on the LPRC, and now they want to be a market participant. I don't think that's going to sit well.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that. Mr. Ducle, LPRC now made this announcement on Friday, well, at least the news leaked on Friday. Today a ship burst, and a tanker. Let me take that back. A tanker burst at the Monroe Freeport, prepared to offload the first shipment. There's a lot to take in 3 days. I mean, what did you think when you heard the news that the LPRC was now becoming a player on the market?
When I first heard about it, my first instinct to respond to the news was that, how is this going to be possible? And I kind of thought of what Jimmy just said about the regulatory aspect of LPRC. Is this not going to be a conflict of interest? And if so, how are they going to be able to deal with it? And it from all indication, it didn't seem to me as if there were consultation that went on before this decision was made. Because if you look at the time frame from when the announcement was made until we were told that there's a ship has actually anchored at the NPR at the National Port Authority, it was just shocking. So this simply means this whole this whole deal, this whole idea of getting LPRC involved has been in the works for some time. And what we heard was just the end result of that work that was going on behind the scene, which I also find to be problematic, because I don't think the process was transparent to allow. If this were going to be the case, why was it not? Why wasn't there any competition? And if so, how are they going to explain the regulatory aspect of their work to the Liberian people? And I don't know if this whole idea of getting LPRC involved in the marketing of petroleum product is ill-advised. I think it was ill-advised, and I'm not sure if all the challenges that we have right now, and like I don't know, somebody said earlier, I don't know if it was you or Jimmy, we have not been experiencing shortages on the market for a while now.
Yeah.
Relatively stable since maybe a couple of months now. It's been pretty stable, and so I don't know the rationale behind getting LPRC involved, but I think this decision was ill-advised, and it might end up having the opposite effect as they get into the market. Because if you look at the bigger consumers of this product,
Yeah.
a big part of it is going to be the very government that is now involved in this petroleum importation. And if so, we know in the history of our country, national debts are not something that we pay. It's not what we do when we doing our economics. So I just think that it's just so much problem wrong with this decision. The least of which is, how would you import it as a government, and how would you have government as one of your customers, and how are you going to sell your product to the very government that you are part of? So I mean, it's just you can just see so many question marks that need to be clearly answered, and some of the pathway into this market needs to be really clearly defined and public, because I think the whole process was shrouded in secrecy up to this point, at least as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
So I think the government has a lot of explaining to do.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What's your concern when it comes to conflict of interest concerning the government importing fuel?
Well, sometimes when there are shortages on the market, we know in some instances, at least in the past, it has been artificial shortages just to allow the petroleum sector to sort of take advantage and then hike the prices and then sell that product with a higher cost. Now, as a regulatory body, there are sometimes you try to put in place a rule that is govern how you deal with these shortages on the market. You know how sometimes the government will say you can only sell it with this price and not that price.
Yeah.
Right? But that can only happen when you have people competing, and the competitors are having, a huge demand on the market, right? And so, in order for the government to be the one regulating the price of the product that they are bringing in, how are they going to regulate themselves? They being the importer at the same time the regulator. I mean, it just, the conflict is just, in my mind, is too apparent.
Okay. All right. Okay. We'll come back to you. I have more questions, but we'll come back to you. Let me bring in Gabriel here. Gabriel, so the news is out, and it seems like the LPRC is not even giving an opportunity to hear the concerns of others. They are moving full throttle to implement this. Off the bat, your first reaction, what do you think here?
So when I've heard the news that there are two, you know, there's two sides of the coins here, right? I don't want us to look at this as either bad or good, unless we can figure out what LPRC is doing with the fuel that they import into the country. Here's why, right? So, as a country, from a national security standpoint, we need some kind of energy security. That I agree with, right? Meaning we should have fuel reserve. Reserve, which, regardless of where we keep it, whether at the free port or somewhere, we should have some kind of fuel reserve, right? For energy, right? Just in case incidences such as Ebola happens or another pandemic breaks out where you don't have access, the private importers do not have access to their suppliers anymore. Guess what? We have reserve in the country that we can use until, you know, things subside, right? So I don't want us to look at it as it being bad, right? We need energy sufficiency. We need energy security as a country, right? Here's the other side. The other side of that is basically, I think, what Jimmy and Dr. Dukale has alluded to, is the LPRC intending to directly participate in the market with that fuel that they're bringing into the country. Now, if this is their, decision to participate, meaning to supply to other buyers in the country, then we do have a problem. Then it becomes a problem because, as everybody alluded to, you cannot be regulating an industry that you're participating in. You undermine yourself in that aspect of it, right? So we need to look at it from those aspects, right? So I don't want us to just conclude that this is a bad or good thing unless we know the intention of the import. If it's solely for reserve, for national security standpoint, meaning, hey, we could have another Ebola, we could have another COVID, that could be something that the government needs, then we can have access to that. Here's another thing I would say quickly in our land. So as a regulatory body, you need that, right? So for them, they have two in their arsenal if they want to regulate. From an economy standpoint, they cannot just go to supplier and say, we want you to charge this amount for fuel on the market. It doesn't work like that, right? It's controlled by supply and demand, right? So they can give incentives to the supplier, the private supplier, to say, if you bring in, we can give you discount, tax credit for selling fuel at such and such discount. Then the private importer can take advantage. But in case they do that, they give them those incentives and the private importer still selling fuel at a higher price, guess what? They have a reserve. And if the larger population of the country is complaining that fuel price is high, guess what? Then you can leverage the reserve you have to trigger the private supplier to lower their prices. So there's two weapons you have in your arsenal now: incentives, or you can directly inject fuel into the market through the direct supplier. But you don't do that directly. You do that from a reserve standpoint, meaning if things get worse, we leverage the resources we have. If we leverage the two in our arsenals and it doesn't work, guess what? We have a reserve here. We can deploy in the market. But I don't want them to be a direct participant in the market that they're regulating. So we should look at it.
Let me ask. Okay, so let me. Okay, so there's a couple of things here, right? The first thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, but price gouging,
happens.
which is artificially raising the price of any product, right?
Yeah.
Against the normal consumer, right? And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that's a crime, and you can be fined if that happens, right?
Yes.
They can even threaten to take away your license.
Absolutely.
Okay. So government has several tools they can throw out there, and say, if all of a sudden we find out that an importer artificially raised their price, you can call them in, have a meeting, and say, why are you selling at this price?
Yeah.
we know you bought it at this price,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the expectation that you'll make this amount of profit. So why did you add $1 to it? And
Right.
if they cannot give you a good answer, that you can term that as price gouging because there's no reason to increase the price.
Right.
That's a national security issue. Okay,
Yep.
great. All right. So now, here's my first. Let me put this up there. Okay, it's a little small, people, but I hope you bear with me. This was released today by LPRC, signed by the managing director, Amos Sweat. Basically, this says, and my abonnement, so I'll read it from my phone. Okay, but basically, this was a
LPRC.
communication.
Right.
Can you see it? This was a communication by Amos Sweat informing importers and retailers of fuel in the country that the LPRC had fuel for sale, and that if you want to participate in selling on retail the fuel that LPRC has brought in, these are the list of things you have to do. And then it listed those things. So
Yeah.
Amos Sweat he cleared that down. This is why we're bringing fuel in. It has nothing to do with strategic storage. It has nothing to do with, of being, being on a security, national security safety issue.
Yeah.
This is about selling fuel. We're bringing it in. We don't want to be retailers. We want to sell it to you wholesale, and then you then take it from there. So it must
Okay.
So I want to hear your response to that part.
Let me say quickly, and then I'll yield. So with that context, meaning that they have decided exactly what they would like to do with the import of the fuel that is coming in. In that case, then I change my view, meaning then I can directly now say this is or will become a problem. And here's why. I think Jimmy and Dr. Du again alluded to that. You cannot participate into the market that you're regulating. That's one. The second thing here is that it makes you less effective, right? In terms of the tools that we talked about, I think you alluded to some of them that they're supposed to be putting out there in terms of clamping down on price gougers. You cannot go clamp down on people that are, price gouging anymore, right? Because if I am competing with you directly and you are selling as, as who's supposed to be the regulator, you're selling at whatever price you're selling to, I have every right to sell whatever I want to sell at to, right? So that's the conflict of interest I think we were talking about here. And this is not an attack on the government or the Amos guy himself. It goes back to the fundamental of putting people in position that they have a little bit of understanding. If you have somebody in that kind of position, basic economics will help you make a little bit of decision like that. What are the economic implication of me competing with these people directly, the private sector, right? It would have given them a little bit of context in terms of what's going to happen. These people employ hundreds of people in the market. If you're competing with them directly, you undermine them. They could stop firing people because you're competing with them, and I think that's some of the things we need to be looking at. But I would stop there for now.
Okay, thank you so much.
Well, Ansu, if you
I'm coming to you.
Okay.
I'm coming to you. So and this is what I wanted to present to you. Okay. Every importer in Liberia right now has employees. In order to pay those employees, they have to make profit. So they are driven to make profit. Whether LPRC make profit or not, every employee of LPRC will take pay. Okay? So my question to you is, what is there to motivate LPRC to actually be effective in this?
Okay. So I think I want to throw a little more light on this. This is not the first time this thing has come up. Earlier, the African Trade Chamber issued an article citing how the pro temp emeritus at the time, Senator Abachir, proposed a national discourse with the aim of unbundling the activities of the Liberia Petroleum Company, because they found out they were doing so many things with regulation and participating in the market that it's time to unbundle some of these things. So the Grand Crew Senator, he frowned on the fact that LPRC is acting as both referee and player in the management of the subsector, as it is performing policy setting, regulatory oversight, and commercial operations. This is in January that this thing was called out already. This is not the first time this thing has been proposed, okay? He said, how can LPRC set prices through the monthly petroleum prices circular for importers when it is also an importer? So he had proposed not just only LPRC, but also for LEC and maybe NOCAL, that maybe some of these things need to be unbundled because they have this inherent conflict. Now, they write this letter today. No, the Senate, the legislature, they're the ones who's supposed to have oversight over these things. They're supposed to be the ones to challenge it. But you can see that Albert did contend about, Abachir did make contention of this earlier in this year, but it's gone nowhere. Yeah. Now, some people don't understand why we have this check and balance. We need this check and balance to keep everybody in regulation. Because if you allow somebody or you allow a body to be uncontrolled, unbridled, they could make several mistakes and plunge all of us into trouble. That is why it's necessary to have a check and balance on these things.
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something, Jimmy. Let me ask you something here. If so, one of the things we've heard Managing Director Emma Swear boast about is that right now the LPRC is building a lab, a brand new lab, beautiful building. They're building a lab, and that lab is supposed to be able to test the quality of gasoline that is being brought into the country, right? So basically, LPRC is going to be able to tell importers this gasoline is of too low of a quality, to put on the market.
Right.
So who then is going to tell LPRC the same thing if LPRC makes the mistake of bringing in such a quality?
Exactly. They have to. Are they going to justly regulate themselves when they've made a purchase? And I want us to look at how this looks on an importer. I wish we could bring Musa Belede on to talk about this. Before you can get a shipment, you have to have the credit available or the cash available to bring the product into the port, okay, and offload it. All right, so you are taking there's a certain inherent risk because you are buying stuff. So if you buy this product now or you order this product and then you can't offload it, there are many consequences the importers will realize. That is why we need a neutral body regulating this. If LPRC wants to import product, no problem, but it shouldn't also regulate. That is all we're saying.
All right, good conclusion. Mr. Duclay, I pride myself on being a common sense person. I'm not in the oil industry. I'm not an oil expert, but I think I'm over 50 years old, and throughout my life, I've depended on common sense, and it's brought me so far.
Mm-hmm.
So let me give you a short scenario, and I want for you to speak to this scenario. LPRC is what LPRC has been doing probably in the last 30 years, 25 years, right? They have become the storage facility for importers. Importers, they bring their stuff in, they store it at LPRC, they pay LPRC a fee, a storage fee, and then they sell their product. Okay? So if LPRC has a storage capacity of, let's just say 10 million gallons, okay? And then LPRC decide they are going to order 10 million gallons. That fills their storage.
It does.
If there's nowhere for the other people to store their own gas, they can't import. They're out of business. LPR can say that's not our fault. We're just doing ours. Now, the reason why other people will only bring in a smaller quantity because you have a certain credit limit. So you won't bring in what you can bring in. You sell that, you turn the money over, and then you go back. LPRC has unlimited resources. Unlimited resources. They can sit down on $10 million, $30 million, and nothing happy. You're not moving them. I gave you that scenario. Speak to that scenario for me.
Yeah, and this is some of the difficulties that we expect to see, because even with that capacity you just mentioned now, there's supposed to be a perimeter around that capacity that accommodate all the importers. On a normal circumstances, without they being involved, there's this perimeter, and this perimeter is supposed to accommodate all the importers, right? Now that they have become a player, I don't know how this is going to work out, because they to themselves, they are the one who set that perimeter that everybody is going by, and if they are not going to be a player on the market, they have unfettered access to this facility because it's the government owned, and so I think it's going to be very difficult, because I don't know how they are going to really do this. Now, are they going to go back to the importers or other importers who are in this business to curb their limit so that they will be able to accommodate whatever capacity they are trying to put forward? So I don't know. I think one of the things we need to do to see how this is going to work out for everybody is to wait and see how they're actually going to, first of all, market this product that they've brought in, and who are going to be their customers, even though we have a general sense of who some of their customers are going to be, so that when this first shipment that they've brought in goes on the market, and all the things that is going to transpire, going to give us a clear indication as to where things are heading. But as it looks right now, I think the outlook doesn't look promising for other importers, as well as the profit-making expectation of this product.
But Mr. Duclero, what if they just promise? What if they just promise? We promise that we will always keep space there for you. That we get.
Don't take promises in business.
Mr. Duclero, yes. Come on now. Should we fear? If government just promise and say, "Hey man, we promise you that even though we get 10 million storage capacity, and that's the number I'm putting out there, and we can afford to bring in 10 million gallons, but we promise you we won't bring in 10 million gallons. We will stifle our own profit and our own progress just to keep space there for you." Come on, shouldn't that be enough for us?
No, it shouldn't be enough, because businesses don't operate on promises. That's number one. Number two, businesses usually supposed to plan several months, if not several years ahead, and so you can't promise, like you can base your planning based on promise. This kind of this it sort of reminds me of, when you go to the prison, and almost everybody you ask in the prison will tell you, say they are wrongfully there. When everybody know they must have done something to be there. But again, that's what they would tell people when you ask them, most of them. So it's the same thing here. You can, particularly the Liberian government for that matter, you can't take their promise and take it to the bank. The check is going to bounce back. And so you cannot base your planning on the promise from the government. And again, like I said, I think this first shipment is a test run for us to see how they're going to really do this, because like I said, there are just so many questions that need to be answered before we got a clearer understanding as to what the government is going to do as to become a participant in this sector. I mean, yes.
Come on, surely we can trust government. Huh?
Okay,
Can we trust government?
Jeff, listen.
So
Ansu.
Wait, no. I want Mr. Eastman.
No, but that kind of question, we should trust government. You don't really want
No, I have to ask. Please, Mr. Ducle,
Yeah.
we trust government? We elected these people.
Yeah, when you see today, we have a lot of problems in our country. Primarily, some of those problems originate from the fact that people don't trust the government. People don't trust the government when it comes to the police, to the justice system, to almost everything that the government does, because we don't have a history of the government being honest with us. And I can sit here and cite to you numerous examples where government have made promises and they have not kept. And so, I mean, that's a no-brainer, Mr. Padmo. Besides even being an ordinary Liberian, we are talking about millions of dollars here. And so you can't just take the government word for it. There has to be other guarantee beyond just promises.
Okay.
So can I play a devil's advocate here, maybe for a little bit, and I think we need to look at it from that context. So, and I think this is why we need to look at the other side of the argument, right? What was the intention? Why prompted this whole importation of fuel from, to directly participate in the market? So we're looking at it from an investor standpoint. We're looking at it from the average Liberian standpoint. We're looking at, but we need to put ourselves in the shoes of the government in this context. Meaning, okay, as you pointed out, Michael, they do get storage fees from the suppliers, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And this is a state-owned enterprise.
Yes.
Supposedly, we expect all of our state-owned enterprises to be profitable, to generate some kind of profit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, the reason could be that the storage fee that they're getting from these suppliers is not enough to keep up the services in terms of the administrative costs of the LPRC, right? Which I do understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this could be the reason behind it. And I agree with Mr. Eastman that it would help if we had one of maybe somebody, Amos himself, on the show to give us a little bit of context, right? It could be one of the reasons why, right? But you also have to look at it. If you're limited in your resource generation as a state-owned enterprises, I said this before, you have other tools. You can charge maybe 5 cents or 10 cents or 20 cents at the pumps for every gallon of gas the supplier sells, in addition to the storage fees. If you look at the storage fees in the region, we are probably the highest, or maybe the highest on the continent for storage fees, right? Sierra Leone, I think they charge 12 cents. I think we're at 35. Nigeria's is way less because they have a lot of fuel. So we are already generating a lot of money from storage fee from these suppliers. So why strangulate them by even participating and competing against them again, right? So we want to look at it from this context. So for me, I think the reason why they probably decided to directly compete was basically to generate more revenue. And they can make the argument, and we can have a counter argument towards it as well. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, LPRC might need more money.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to emphasize this.
So please, what should we trust government, Chief?
It's not just non-business. This thing is in the making. That's what it was since last year, May. They made plans to import petroleum products with what they call Stratcon Energy and Trading, a Ghanaian-based oil import and distribution company. This thing has been in the making for a while. We can look at this as a power grab. I've seen this happen before.
It is power grab.
A company comes in, goes to the main regulator or controller of business, and they go to directly and it cross a deal with that entity directly and sideline all other competitors. Do we want to do that? Now, I hear some people talking about we have more fuel in the country. We are discouraging competition. There are consequences when you discourage competition.
Yeah.
We're not saying that LPRC should not market petroleum goods, but they should not be a regulator also, because we need a balanced playing field. I will leave it. Let you.
Okay. So I like to. We have one more person joining us. J. Randy J. Dapo. Mega two J in it. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Dapo. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Moderator, for the opportunity.
Okay. So we're discussing the LPRC. And I'm sure you've heard that LPRC has become an importer of fuel into the Liberian market. What was your reaction when you first heard about this?
I think the first thing we need to establish here is what is the legal reason why LPRC was established. If we can get the reason why it was established, then I think we will get to know whether there is a misguided direction on the topic we are having here. My recollection tells me that the LPRC was established to import petroleum products, store, distribute, and regulate. But the regulatory aspect will come through the Ministry of Commerce Industry that is responsible for local price management. So whatever we hear out there, I think as someone who, I never worked in Liberia, but someone who worked in the United States with Vera Petroleum's operations and have worked with the different state in determining how they kind of carry out their commercial from different convenience store to regular pop and mama store. The way prices are regulated based on what the commerce industry in the country regulate prices. I don't know how it works, but I think the way I would take my conversation is what is the role of LPRC in the importation, storage, distribution, and regulation of the petroleum sector in the country? Because right now we are not out of the alcohol management of oil producing before I would say the commercial stage. So I don't know what is happening now, moderator. What are they doing now? Maybe you might want to help me up. I did listen to Amos Tour saying that, we are going to be part of the distribution. And my question is, does he really understand or know what LPRC were established for? So that's something that I'm very concerned about, and I would like to know. That will give me the reason to actually elaborate more on this. But other than that, I can just still piggyback from you guys and have it.
Okay, yeah, because I really don't know what. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know what Amos was thinking. To be honest with you, and I haven't heard anything clear from him. But I am listening to, and I'm watching our audience, and somebody posted this. If you are against LPRC bringing in petroleum and breaking the monopoly of a few importers who are making a killer off of the back of poor Liberians with exorbitant high fuel prices, you are the problem.
I think.
Said,
sorry,
guys. No, go ahead, Randy.
Go ahead, Randy.
Like I said again, I know everyone is entitled to their opinion, but I always base my conversation on professional opinions, because professional opinion, kind of eliminate opinion because it's supported by facts. And the facts that we can get here is we have our three branches of government. The national legislative branch is responsible to legislate law that create different institutions with the purpose of carry out different functions in order to align with principles and practices in our country. So whoever coming out, I understand where they're coming from. But my question here is, how many private seaport do we have? How many beach? Because when the vessel come, it will dump the fuel onto a beach or oftentimes into real cars. And so sometimes you see real car in America, they are going to non-seaport locations. So it has to be taken through a real car and taken to the storage location. So whether it is Musability that I remember used to import fuel, but when the fuel comes, the destination of loading will be at the Freeport of Monrovia, and then that fuel will be taken to LPRC, where the above storage tank, whether it is 1,700 or 100,000 or 150,000 storage tank, the fuel will be stored in there. And I think part of the storage fee will be charged for whoever is importing that. So what I would like to understand here is LPRC now saying to everyone importer in the country, like for example, hey guys, you guys will bring your petroleum product, we store it in our storage tank, but here's the new deal now. No one now going to be importing, and we only going to be the only guy that going to be importing a different category of fuel, whether it's ultra low or diesel or petroleum product or any other product that requires storage. Then if that is coming from Amos, who is the head, then the statement the person is reading, then of course he or she is online with that. But until then, I can only base the conversation again on what's the role. And that's why transparency is very key, because when you got to roll out the programs, the public here is part of the society, and through the program roll out the objective and what they're hoping to achieve, if this can continue to come out and let the people know out here, it provides us the opportunity to discuss and look at how the process will be done. So everyone out there making a comment, I do agree with them, but I think the biggest challenge goes back to the LPRC. So if LPRC, because the vessel I saw, I think they say is 2.3 metric tons. If LPRC is going to be the only single importer and then distributor, then I have a problem with that. And not to mention the regulatory part of it now. Are they going to take it away? So those are things.
Okay, so far we have not heard LPRC say they are going to be the single importer. What we have heard is that they are going to become one of the importers. But then again, they are providing the storage.
Correct.
So, Gabriel,
Yeah.
let me ask you this. I keep hearing people talking about monopoly. I keep hearing people talking about exorbitant prices.
Mhm.
Okay. My question to you is, why, if indeed Liberians have been charged exorbitant prices, why has the government allowed the people to be charged exorbitant prices
Yeah,
all this time? And
I think
if it is true, is this the answer? Become a
and
supplier yourself?
I agree to with the comment that you just listed on there. If there indeed, in fact, was or is a monopoly, and they feel that you, Michael, Gabriel, Randy, Dr. Dukley are the only importers here, and somehow we do collude to, to set the price of fuel on the market, and if they determine that, right? There's a way you can break up monopoly, right? You can do investigation, and if there is legitimate evidence that three of us or four of us here are colluding to create a monopoly through the pricing that we do put on the market, you can fine us, right, to break
Yes.
that up, right?
Yes.
That's one aspect. The other aspect, I think that Randy alluded to that, through law, right? If you
Yep.
feel that, let's say, I'm just using the hypothetical, like you, myself, Randy, and Dr. Dukley are monopolizing the fuel market, you can basically pass law to make it easy for people to enter into fuel importation. right?
More
Meaning
importers.
you now, exactly, you want more importers in the market to compete with four of us. So that way it will bring down the price, right? So there are laws aspect, you know, approach you can deal with, but there's also the effective, um, you know, acting on the part of the government to really investigate whether there is in fact monopoly on in the market. We cannot establish that. We don't know on the premise for which they have decided, and this is why everybody keep talking about transparency, transparency, transparency. Not only communicate that we did decide to participate in the market. Why? Because we investigated and we realized Gabriel, Eastman, and Michael and everybody else, they have colluded to charge the average Liberian this kind of price. This is the reason why, and we have tried to investigate. We try to solve the problem, and they're not doing that. So we realize, in order to not create problem within the economy, this is why we're participating. At least people will understand. But if there is a monopoly, there are ways you can go to break a monopoly. We have monopolies here in the United States. Perfect example, the telecom, the cell phone company that you and I are using now. There was a monopoly on it for the longest. It got broken up, and there are hundreds of small cell phone companies. You got the Obama phone, the Nextel, and all of these small, because it was broken up, right? We can do the same thing through law. Everything that is happening right now with monopoly, we can solve it through law. But again, we go back to the lawmakers. This is why we have those people. I think Eastman said it. There is only one person who's making the case that this is a problem. This is going to be a problem. I need other voices to join him and make the case as well. And if there is, draft the law
Mr.
to solve
Ducle.
it. Yeah.
Mr. Ducle. So we keep hearing about, so we talked about exorbitant prices and how we can kind of get through that, and if you want to expound on that, there are definitely more than, more than entitled to do that. But I want to ask you another question here. How does, and if you don't know, I'm just trying to understand how people are thinking. How does, if the price of oil or the price of fuel on the market, right, is $3, how does LPRC coming into the market bring it below $3? Is that possible? And how does that work? How would that work?
And this is why we kept saying that if at all they are going to be part of the market, this is going to just compromise their regulatory authority on the market, because now normally, as we know, the prices of the prices of the product, whatever product there is usually in a simple economic terms is determined by the demand and supply state of any product. Now, in this case, you would assume normally that having many importers in the sector supposed to help to bring down prices, because it's competitive. There are many suppliers, so you don't have the problem of running into shortage of the product. But because they have a function of regulating that very market they are now part of, I don't know how they will be able to do this when other people who are not part of the government, I'm talking about the other ordinary importers of the product. They put themselves in a very compromising position with this importation of the petroleum product on the market for the Liberian people. So I don't really know. Like I said, we're going to have to wait and see how this is going to work out. But the outlook doesn't look good.
Okay, so let me ask you one more question before I go on to Mr. Eastman here. Oil is identified as a security product, right? National security product, right? It's one of those things that has national security implications.
Yeah.
If the government is concerned with supply, if the government is concerned with pricing, and the answer is let's become a supplier, what is to stop government from supplying rice? Becoming a supplier for rice? Just think about it now. If government can bring down the price of oil or bring down the price of gas by becoming a supplier, they can bring down the price of rice by becoming a supplier. And then they can bring down the price of medication by becoming a supplier. And then they can just go from one product to another and just bring down the price. I mean, that's the logic that I'm hearing from people.
Actually, I mean, if you follow that logic, then there's really going to be no limit on them. But I beg to differ with people who talk about this petroleum being national security. What national security? I mean, I want for somebody to tell me what national security.
So the first thing is that the price of fuel affects the price of everything.
Yes.
Right? Everything.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And we all know what about our rest and the price of rest. So anything that affects the price of rest for Liberians is a national security. If there's no fuel on the market or there is a shortage, basically the whole economy stops.
Yeah.
Not just the whole economy.
Yes.
The security, the police do not have their own fuel storage tanker. If they can't go to the gas station and get fuel, guess what? Police cannot work. Fire department cannot work. National security cannot work. You understand what I'm trying to say? So
yes.
Just from that point of view, there are many looks that they look at and see that be like, you know what? If there's no sardine on the market, that's not a threat to the presidency. But if there's no fuel or there's no rice on the market, those two things, as far as they are concerned, Liberian people at that point, there's a national security emergency in the country.
Yeah,
that's not my declaration. That's the outlook of Liberia.
Yes, I mean, okay. Let me probably be a little bit more explicit when I try to argue against this national security argument. And because particularly with the petroleum product, the LPRC has the mandate to make sure that there is sufficient supply of petroleum product on the market. They have that mandate.
Yes.
Now, at the same time, even though they have the mandate, they cannot force importers to do certain things against their will.
Yes.
Now, I get all of that, but as an entity that is supposed to be charged with regulating the very sector that they are now participating in, is it out of the concern of national security? Is that one of the elements that they looked at and they decided to be part of this?
Yeah,
and if
it's supply of gas.
Yes, and if the answer to that question is yes, then is there a limit as to what they cannot get into as far as national security is concerned? And I mean, I'm sort of going by your own argument you had presented earlier. So, because there are a lot of things that have national security implication. Transportation is one of those.
Yeah.
Rice is one of those. Like you said, petroleum product is one of those.
Yeah.
And there are many other things that could have national security implication. The communication system in the country is one of those.
That's another national security. Yep.
Yeah. So are you saying that if there is any national security concern in any of these areas that we've just mentioned, now that gives the government a green light, or the government will give itself a green light to get involved in those sectors? I don't think so, and it shouldn't be that way. And so again, when we look at the the agency that regulates communication in Liberia, what is it called again?
LTA.
LTA.
Yeah.
Now, LTA has enormous responsibility to regulate the communication sector, and I think the communication sector is, in my opinion, as things stand right now in Liberia, is more vital and really necessary in terms of the national security concern, as opposed to a petroleum product right now in Liberia. And so So if the country is that concerned, I think there are alternate way to deal with that than to get themselves in the market where they are going to be responsible to regulate at the same time take that national security concern into account. But I don't think this is the way to go about it, because then where are you going to draw the line?
Okay, all right. So we've gone a while now. Got up 45 minutes ago. I really want for us to talk about the fast and prayer day tomorrow. So I will just ask each one of you just one more time, just one more question on this particular topic, and then we will move forward. So, Mr. Eastman, let me come to you. Then I will come to J. Rennie Dapo. So Mr. Eastman, what is to stop the LPRC? No, that's not how I should phrase it. Let me rephrase that question for you, right? If the people start to complain about the price of, if the people start to complain about the price of gasoline on the market, right? And the government decides, hold on 1 second. Okay, there we go. The government decides that they want to do something about it. Okay? And LPRC decided they're going to drop the price of gasoline. How do importers react to that? Oh, you're muted.
Okay. I think we have to go back to the drawing board, so to speak. There was an act of legislature, July 31, 1989, granting to the Liberian Petroleum Refining Company exclusive rights for the importation, sale, and distribution of petroleum and petroleum products within the Republic of Liberia. So let's establish first that the fact that the LPRC is not acting out of its
Mandate.
jurisdiction and mandate. Okay, it is in compliance. What has emerged, obviously, is that they also regulate other importers. Now, this act also stipulates what are the criteria for anyone wanting to import fuel to the country. You have to partner with a Liberian. That's one of the criteria. They mention the import fees you have to pay and all of that. And this has been established. But apparently, this role of importing.
Oh, I'll call you. Sorry. I'll call you right back, man.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, but what has emerged that LPRC has not been directly importing fuel as they are now. Now they're about to do it. So how does that affect the market? What is going to be the procedure going ahead? I think there's a lot of implications here that we need to discuss. But what has to be adjusted? That they cannot also be regulating the market and being a participant. So there's some adjustments that have to be made to keep things legal and lawful and competitive. And that is what needs to be clarified before we continue. But
okay,
with this going on, you know.
All right. So J. Rennie, I'll come to you. When this is how I know government to be, and you can tell me how you know government to be. I see government like a beast, like a hungry beast that just wants to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And somehow we should have the responsible people to limit the growth of government. Government coming into this industry, government getting money, government getting capacity. What is to stop government from pushing everybody else out of the market and becoming the only supplier?
Well, if you talk about government just want to eat or get big, then that really, compromise the principle of why government should be established. Because number one, government is not in the business of making profit. Government generate revenue by providing services and protection for its people and allow them to operate where in their operation or through their operation they pay taxes to the government. And with that, they focus on protecting your business, my business, and the community at large. And then we pay taxes and live happily in a community and the country. What I see, like I said, the best way to unpack all the suspicious thing we're talking about here is firstly to understand the establishment of LPRC. When I listened to Amos, he said for the last 40 years or in the past 40 years, what they are doing today, it took almost 40 years to be done. So that means it was around 1985 that what they are doing today hasn't been. So the question is, what did Samuel Kanyando do during 1985 that kind of stalled the process? My best guess, if I look at the principle of why LPRC was established as an importer, storage, distribution, and regulate, I'm saying to myself, based on that mandate, maybe LPRC were working with other private importers and say, hey, the best way we can make money is when you bring your product, we store it here, you pay storage fee, we manage it, you get it here. Now, when it comes to regulations, there are different aspects of regulation. One, managing the petroleum product from not interfering in the environment to create an adverse effect. That's number one. Number two, regulating price control. That means she also has to coordinate with the Ministry of Commerce. So there will be a two-edged sword, regulation with the EPA and regulation with the Ministry of Commerce. Now, as far as our suspicions go, because it hasn't been transparent for us, if the LPRC, and I'm just giving instances here, if the LPRC decides to say, hey, people of Liberia, we are going to move away from just being importer, just being caretaker, like storing and protecting other people's product. But here what we're going to do, we are not going to distribute. We are going to start selling. That changes the whole ball game around, because LPRC as a government entity with that responsibility is now going to go into commercial sale. That means LPRC will have to create a subsidiary that will say maybe the LPRC Petroleum Marketing Corporation. That's what LPRC will be doing. And then as far as price go, she's going to undercut the other businesses because she is not in the business of making profit now. And what would that do for the petroleum community in the country? They will see the government has not been the referee, but been the player in the game, and that can create furthermore insecurity in the country because it could be politicized for other people to take side. So again, I think the authority at the Freeport of Liberia need to come and tell us exactly why the large storage things are being constructed, what are they hoping to achieve, how is it going to balance the current market with private distributor, what are they going to play a facilitating role, or they're going to be participating in the process. But they cannot be the referee and the player in the game. That will create what we describe as unethical behavior within the petroleum market. And I hope President Boyka has people who understand what it means to not poke the bear, because people quit to protest when you try to mess with their finances. Back to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Gabriel, I'll end with you on this, and then we'll talk about the fast and prayer. You mentioned that maybe LPRC are trying to make more money, but if you are a storage unit and you want to make more money, you build more storages. I mean, like, come on. You don't decide to say, okay, I will become a supplier. You build more storage. You build more storage. You make it more effective. You update it. You upgrade it. Then you can actually charge more money. If you do those things. So why not do that? Why become a supplier?
And I think to answer that question, I want to start with a premise that you laid earlier, that if they want to participate in to be a player in the fuel importation. Why can't they do that with rice? Why can't they do that with medicine in the hospital? Why can't they do that with everything, right? And this is a fine line that I think we're threading on here, where I think Jimmy alluded to that. Not alluded to that. He stated that clearly. This is a power grab. And the moment a government begin to power grab in these key economic sectors, you're venturing on the line of a communist state where the government dominates the economy because nobody will be able to compete with you any longer, right? So you dictate the price in the fuel, you dictate the price in the drug, the rice market, literally putting people out of business, right? You dominate the economy. That's something we have to be very careful of, right? Now, to your point, in terms of, if they want to make more money, why aren't they building more fuel facility? That would be the logical thing to do, right? Meaning, we build more fuel facility, we make it easy for market entry for people to come into the uh, fuel supply business, and we supply them basically, right, to make it easier for people to come in, right?
Yeah.
That would be the logical thing. I said this earlier. Or what we do here in the States. So if I think every one of you is probably aware of this. Every time you pay for a gallon of gas at the pump, there's a fraction, maybe 10 cents or 15 cents or 20 cents that goes to the government. Every
Yeah.
single gallon of gas, right? We
Of
could do
course.
that. They could do that, right? They could say, you know what, in addition to the storage fees that we're paying here, we're going to charge additional, maybe 10 cents for every gallon of gas sold in this country, right? That expands your revenue base, right? You can start cracking down on people that are price gouging. I said this earlier, and find them, right? As opposed to directly competing. The importation of fuel should be for strategic security, energy security reason. Meaning, if there's a emergency where the country shut down, your supplier or wherever you've been getting your supply, the fuel from, there's a geopolitical war in that place, and you no longer have access to that area. You have reserve in the country that you can rely on until things gets better. Here's the thing, another side I want to look at, and I always like to look at both sides. For the importers in our country, I hope they get the chance to watch this. If you go into business with the government and you think that you're just going to rely on them, they're going to be supplying you, and you should have a long-term plan. Even if they're supplying you, say I will allow the government to supply me for 5 years. After that, I want to build my own reserve. Because if you don't, you find yourself right in this kind of predicament where your hands are tied, the government dictates everything. So I hope they can learn from this scenario and be able to build their own reserves. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. I think I called my age earlier on the show, yeah? So when Amos were talking about 40 years ago, yeah, I remember 40 years ago. I remember fuel shortages in Monrovia 40 years ago. I remember cars lined up back to back for blocks because of no fuel. I remember the small amount of fuel that came to the country was strategically given to certain people, certain agencies, certain government installations before the small one that was left was given to the public. I remember those things. I remember that, and that was a time when government was involved in the importation and the distribution of gasoline. I remember those times. So for people who think, oh, as long as government becomes supplier, all our problems are done. There used to be a corporation called the LPMC, Liberia Produce and Marketing Corporation, that is no more. There used to be one of those. They are no more. They basically became bankrupt. We all sat here and watched NoCal go bankrupt. Every time we see government hands into stuff like that, we expect it to. Our expectations are good. That's normal human being. We want the best for our country. But time and time again, we see that government has a very hard time when they enter the capital market when it comes to this. But okay, gentlemen, thank you for your contributions. Yes.
Can I say something quickly, please?
Yeah.
I did listen to the last panelist. at least suggesting, because I don't think it's a recommendation, that it would be better for importer to build their own storage tank. That not a good idea, because the way the environment tend to become very polluted and toxic is when people start building their own storage tank. We have a very weak regulatory system that don't protect the environment. So just as a friendly reminder, my suggestion would be it has to be regulated. And this is where the EPA as well as the LPRC can collaborate to ensure that if any such thing is going to be built, it really need to be rigorously, look into deeply, because the reason we have Superfund in America, you gotta follow the environmental super site. Back in the days, there were wild cars or people just building different petroleum locations around here, and some of the area got extremely polluted with extreme hazardous chemical. And what the government of the United States decided to do is, if they found out that maybe Michael, your entire community or environment is polluted, and every effort has been put into place, and they cannot, reclaim that area or kind of, do a complete remediation, they consider that place as a super fund, and I mean everybody will be forced to leave that area. I don't think doing that thing would be something.
So what you are saying is that you're not saying they can't build, but if they are to build, they need to be highly regulated.
That's correct. Absolutely.
Perfect. I think everybody on this panel will agree with that. I think even LPRC storage tanks should be highly regulated.
Oh yeah,
I remember once upon a time, LPRC was accused of, because what LPRC would do is, and correct me if I'm wrong, people, if I bring my gas and I put it in a tanker, Randy will kind of credit gas from LPRC, and LPRC will get him my gas. Yeah. And then Randy will say, when my own tanker come, then I will put the gas back inside. And they were doing that back and forth. And then they decided, so, okay, we'll go and check how much gas in the tanker. When they went to check, I think they were missing like 1 million gallons. And they said, oh, it leaked. And I was like, if 1 million gallons of gas is leaking into the ground, like somebody needs to say something about this. But anyway, that was the excuse to say it leaked.
Yeah,
anyway.
And just to add to that too, that is why we have to do tank inventory. And the tank inventory kind of decide, like, at certain time of the day when you go across major gasoline station and even at the gas storage tank, they have what we call reconciliation. If Michael is leaving the ship at 8 hours, Michael will have to do that inventory to say, Randy, there were 12,000 gallons in that tank. They were able to purchase about maybe 7,000, and then the 4,000 left. And then I will have to know that 4,000 is in there. And because if that reconciliation is not done, or like in your point, if that's doing, that means that we have what we call product release into soil, and that is serious environmental impact. So the entire place that LPRC used to be, for example, I recall they used to be in the Ghana area. I won't allow anybody to build over there, because there are things that have already gone into the ground that have stayed in the petroleum product, don't move easily. It stays in the ground and people build over it. The next thing you know, you start to have what we call water organic compound coming out of the soil, and then people start to inhale it. The next thing you know, people getting cancer and stuff. But again, that's another topic for another day.
I know. Okay. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. I think we're exhausted this topic for today. We'll continue to watch our government and see what happens when it comes to this. It seems like they're going to go full speed ahead. Somebody said, I remember somebody made a post, they said, by next week, gas will drop. I look forward to seeing that gas will drop next week. All right, gentlemen. So during the July 26th celebration on Saturday, we had an orator, Dr. Dunn, Reverend Dr. Dunn. I don't know which one comes first. But anyway, it all comes first. So I would say Reverend, then I would say Dr. Reverend Dr. Dunn. And he talked a little bit about limiting the too much praying service, and maybe including financial financial education, and other things into there to improve the community. The president followed with his speech, and at the end of the president's speech, the president declared Wednesday, July 30th, as National Fast and Prayer Day. And he expects every Liberian to visit their house of prayer and pray for the nation. He talked about how many calamities, both man-made and natural crises, have happened across the world. And Liberia has been saved by the grace of God, has been spared, was the word he used, spared by the grace of God. Because when you are spared, it means you're guilty already, and they just sparing you. But when you save, it means that we're income way. And I'm guilty, but he said he used the word spared. Liberia has been spared from these things. So therefore, Liberians need to gather and pray. Let me start with Mr. Dukley. Then I'll come to you, Mr. Eastman. Are you prepared to pray tomorrow, Mr. Dukley, as the president ordered? Or proclaimed? Not ordered, proclaimed.
Mr. Padmo, I would say this is just another example, in my opinion, to show to the Liberian people how unserious this unity party government is.
Why you say that?
I say this because we already have so many unnecessary holidays on the books in Liberia. Useless holidays that shouldn't exist. And yet the president has the audacity to proclaim tomorrow as a fast and prayer day. We can fast and pray without it having to be a holiday. We are already not productive. And in the middle of the work week, you proclaim Wednesday to be a statutory holiday so that people will fast and pray? Really? And they talk about calamities. Liberia has never been spared from nothing. What evidence does he have that we were spared? From what? Well, all what that has befallen Liberia? Really? I mean, this is just one more example to tell the world how unserious this government is. People are already not productive. People are already not doing some of the things that they should be doing as a government. And you just go and proclaim Wednesday people will stay home. It's at one time. I mean, I don't know the rationale. I know the orator of the gelatonicists that we had, Dr. Dunn.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Dunn comes from Reverend Dr. Dunn comes from a ministry background, where he is into the ministry and he's been part of the ministry for many, many years. He is an ordained reverend. And so, I can see why he would see, this day as a need for Liberia. But, in my personal opinion, I think one of the problems we have in Liberia, and one of the reasons we have so much this problem, I would tell you, is religion. Be it the Islam or the Christianity that we profess in Liberia, is part of the reason that is contributing to Liberia being backwards. Because instead of people being practical and objectives in what they do, they say, oh, God. Look, God's supposed to be something personal, okay, between you and your God as an individual. Government should have no place in telling people about God. Zero place should the government have to tell people about God. If a government can encourage people to fast and pray for the nation, people can do that. What do you have to proclaim a day where everything shuts down and people go to churches or mosque or synagogue or whatever they go to worship, to pray, and that's going to save Liberia? Give me a break. I don't believe in that. And I can tell you, objectively speaking, prayers and sacrifices has never done nothing for Liberia. I mean, if I would love to see the proof of what prayer has done for Liberia. you know, and you compare that to countries that don't pray, who have never prayed, and let's see which one of the two is doing better. So I mean, I'm not one of the proponents of this so-called fast and prayer, Mr. Padmo.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Carter. Tomorrow is fast and prayer day in Liberia. The president wants us to pray. What are you going to be praying for?
Uh, to be to be honest, I won't be praying. It's I think Dr. Dukley pointed that out. I think religion should be between person. It should be a personal thing, not something a government should come into. You know, we just had the Independent Day orator talk about the country, and even the president himself alluded. Actually, he didn't allude to that. He said the country is hard, right? But instead of telling Liberian, let's roll up our sleeves, put our head down, and work to get us to the place where we need to be, he's telling us to pray, right? To take a day to pray. You can tell us to pray without taking a day. You can tell us to pray. Please, when you go to church on Sunday, take a few minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and pray for the country while you're in church. Why take a working day? Why want to shut everything down in a country that's already struggling economically? You yourself admitted to that. He himself admitted to that. And every Liberian you talk to, they will tell you how difficult the country is. We've been out of the war 22 years, 23 years, going on 22, 23 years. Look where we are. We're still one of the poorest countries in the region. And you are telling people to take a day to pray.
Maybe we're not praying high enough.
God is not going. I've been, it's been 2,000 years since Christ came down on this earth. And I don't think he's going to come down again for the next 2,000 years. So if we think that he praying is going to do anything in the country, we're lying to ourselves. We're a country that, we're not serious. I say this and I continue to say it. And I'll say this quickly and I will end. Tell me a president in the history of our country who understood the intersection of the economics, how to grow an economy, and came in and did that effectively. And I will shut up. And I will shut up. Show me one. Not even that. Forget the history. Since the end of the war, we've had Ellen, we've had Weir, we had Ellen for 12 years, we've had Weir for 6, and we have President Boyka right now. Look where we are economically. Instead of looking at the country holistically and telling us, this is where I want us to be, this is what I think we could do, you want us to go sit down and come pray. Prayer is not going to solve a problem. Prayer is you need to separate church and politics. We need to do that, And Liberia is not a one religion. There are Muslims, there are Christian in that place. There are people who don't even believe in God.
Yeah. No, those people by the night included tomorrow.
I'm being serious, right?
I agree with you.
He's president for everybody, whether they believe in God or not. He's president for everybody. You can't just make rule for one group and exclude the other. So you have to think of everybody. But on a more serious note, I think he should have. Sometimes I kind of wonder who advised these president and these people, and they just come out and just say nonsense. But I yell.
So sometimes things I say come across as humor, but that's what I thought about. I said, hold on, wait. We are a country of at least, I say about 75% traditional.
Yeah.
I've never heard a traditional person talk about praying.
No, never. All right.
So all the Paramachi, Tanchi, all the people, what is they be doing tomorrow? Because they don't go to church. So what are they supposed to be doing now? They supposed to visit Oracle? Anyway, Mr. Eastman.
Yeah.
What are you going to be praying for tomorrow?
Yeah, very, very good, Fred. This call by the leader of Liberia, the president and leader of the commanding chief, I think we shouldn't take it lightly, and I'll tell you why.
All right.
First of all, we don't know what purview that the president has that makes him want to evoke a day of prayer. What is he seeing that we don't see? We're not privy to. Are we about to enter a time of trials and tribulations? What is he seeing that he says we should pray? You see, when you pray, you are seeking divine intervention,
Yes.
right? So is that what we're trying to evoke? It also allows an opportunity to promote unity and solidarity. It's a time where we can have that national humility and communal hearing. Is that what he's trying to do? It's also a time to encourage moral and spiritual renewal. Kind of like let's hit the reset button. And it also gives him a chance to demonstrate leadership and vision. So for me, this day tomorrow should not just be left arbitrary that was go pray. No, it should be led. Specific topics should be discussed. Specific prayers should be said in a certain direction and not simply arbitrary. Because one thing we know in our faith, we said that faith without works is dead.
Dead.
What means that it's not enough to just have faith that something is going to happen. It also involves actions and deeds that demonstrate that belief. So that is why I said, okay, you have the faith that God needs to intervene. You need to get together, but where the actions? We need to. I think the people should be led tomorrow in this prayer. It should have specific topics, specific areas of focus, specific discussions that will yield some benefit. I think just simply saying go pray is not enough. You have to get the clergy together, the leaders, the imams, and tell them what you see. What are you portraying? What are you looking at? And this is why you want them to go back to the parish, go back to the people, and talk about these things that you see so that we can all be in unison with this idea. That's how I think we need to make the right preparation for this to work.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll watch tomorrow. We'll watch tomorrow and see what happens. We'll have a focus on Liberia. We'll have a reporter going around the city of Monrovia and its environs and its suburbs, just kind of getting a taste of the movement and how people are, going to be following the president's proclamation. If churches are going to have services, how many people are going to gather there. The thing about Liberia is a hand-to-mouth country. So people to hustle every day. Every day, you wake up in the morning, you put your trousers on, you go hustle. Hustle brings back food to feed your family. So when they put a holiday in the middle of it and shut the entire country down, the hustle's shut. So people don't think about it, but it's true.
It's true.
It's true.
But I mean, look, Gabriel, you are on the ground. You can see things for yourself, and nobody has.
Location,
yeah? Nobody has to tell you. You can just see how hard life is. Did you hear one YouTuber say to survive in Liberia on a daily basis itself is a work?
Oh yeah,
it is a work, right? Yeah.
That's how hard things are.
It is.
But Jeremy, let's go to our closing here. We have 10 minutes left, so I want to give you guys enough time. I will start with Jay Randy. He's our newest contributor today. So thanks for joining us, Jay. We appreciate it. We hope you come back again next time. I'm sure this is not going to be the end of it. We'll watch this whole package unroll, and as it unrolls, we'll be able to find out more. Are they being choicy? Are they picking and choosing who they are giving gas to? Are they giving gas below the normal price? To create favor. I remember last week I heard an exchange between Prince Moi and Musa Benete, and Prince Moi revealed to the whole public that he owns gas stations. There's a United Party man now. Is he going to be favorite to get gas points before everybody else? At what price? Are they going to credit it to him, or is he going to have to pay up front? I mean, so much we're going to But let me give you a chance to close here. Go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, so many issues in the press, but we're society. But like you said, we'll talk about that another time. But before I close, if you don't mind, I'd like to touch on the National Prayer Days, if you don't mind, Mike. Back in 1979, Togo declared an observant day when the Pope visited Liberia. And then in 2007, Ellen Johnson said he during the reburial of Togo, she declared that as a national day of mourning. And in President, we are in 2023, also did our national mourning as well. And then so with President Boga coming into the fray, it seems to be like something that I see as an executive law, because these guys are privileged to have executive laws. And when they declare these days, it is not reoccurrence day, because reoccurrence law are law that are legislated, like Flag Day, July 26th. Those are reoccurrence that happen from year to year. So the president used this executive law through proclamation to carry this. But the question here is, why is President Boka, out of everything that he mentioned during the election campaign about children not going to be on the street, he going to increase salary? What happened to his executive order that he could have issued to say, you know what, as president, I'm going to issue the executive order to ensure that no child be on the street between 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. They all got to be in school. I see that as a selective leadership, where he kind of look at things not from the benefit of the public, but from his own personal benefit. We have had so many holidays in the country, including day of fasting and mourning. So I think what he's doing is playing to the emotion of Christian. You see, back in the days, the Catholic never wanted to have white people enslave themselves. So they decided to come for the black people and pass down the Bible onto them. And even in the Bible, they tell them you should work hard, and then when you die, you go to heaven. That lasting impression continued to live on the mind of Liberians. President Boka clearly understands that the best way to cool Liberian down, irrespective of the challenges, is to talk about prayers, and it will gain their relation. Because our people are very holy. Even when accident happen, anything happen, they're not looking at the responsibility of public officials that should be ensuring that we create the opportunity to curb the accident. They always say, oh, may God help us, may God help us. So the old man, the president, know exactly what he's doing, Michael. He playing to the conscience of the people. So to buy time. The Reverend told him on an Independent Day, the orator, Dr. Don, don't suspend them. Don't stay with the status quo. Fire them. Right after that, President Boga came out and said he's going to establish an ad hoc committee that totally erased the recommendation of that man. So the next thing he's talking about is this. So the question here is, not everyone in Liberia is a Christian. Is President Boga now leaving the arrest agenda, which should be the framework under which he should operate his government through policy? He told us on July 26th that he was going to run the government on an ad hoc committee. And now he's telling us now that we should go to prayer and fast. So he keep moving the goalposts. So is President Boga now using the policy of the Bible to run the country? I leave that one with you, Michael. Thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, J. Rennie. Thank you so much. Mr. Brooklyn, let me give you a minute there to go ahead and close.
Yes, I just want to say thank you, Mr. Podmore, and thank you to my fellow panelists today. I think it was a lively debate. I think I stand by what I said when I said that we need to get religion out of our politics. And it's one of the reasons why we are where we are. This religion, be it Islam or be it Christian. And I would just cite one example here so that you get where I'm coming from with this. During the Ebola crisis in Liberia, I think if my memory serves me right, there were 13,000 people that died as a result of that Ebola. and a greater number of those victims of Ebola were Muslims. And one of the reasons why the Muslims number was so high was the refusal of many clerics to tell their congregants to stop washing their bodies as the religion requires. Because of fear of contaminating people who are involved in the washing and all that, and they were not doing it. And as a result, uh, the 13,000 that were announced, a greater number of those people were Muslims, to the detriment of our own people. And even myself, there were some close family members who died from Ebola. So, and there are many other examples I can cite here where religion has been a reason that has brought calamity to us. You know, and I don't want to get into all of that, but we need to set a boundary when it comes to religion, and especially at the national level. I don't think proclaiming this is helpful to us, and I don't think nothing is going to change. Look, we need to work. We need to do what we need to do. Prayer. Let me be blunt here a bit. Personally, I don't believe in prayers. I don't think prayers are helpful, uh, and so it's one way that the religion have been able to brainwash us to believe in these prayers and other things that have to do with the religion. So really, it's just one more example where we are wasting our time and energy. And again, I believe religion, whatever religion it is supposed to be between you and your deity that you believe in. And so, on the topic of this LPRC, I think there are a lot of questions that are not answered yet. And as time goes on, we will see how some of these things are going to unfold. But the outlook doesn't look good as far as I'm concerned, because to your point, Michael, the 40 years that LPRC did not follow its own mandate, there were times where there was chronic, I can tell you, chronic shortage of petroleum product on the market
I still remember.
way prior to the Civil War. I can
Yes,
tell you that.
I still remember.
So yes, I remember there were times where taxis were literally halted in the city of Monrovia
Part, I
because
guess.
I don't know. And so you can blame it on some of the government. You can say all you want to say. They will want to justify this action. They will want to find all the reasons in the world to justify it. But I still stand by what I said. Time will tell, and it doesn't really bode well for them. And so when I say that people don't trust government, these are some of the things that we have a documented history where government has deliberately, in some cases, deliberately misled its own people. In some cases, the government has deliberately abused its own citizens. And so there is a reason for the people now to trust their own government.
You're right. You're right. I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. 100%. I totally agree with you. And I remember those days. I remember those days driving, and then people having to curtail their lives. I remember that when we used to leave school, we would leave school earlier than our parents. So we had a driver. The driver would carry us home. We left Kingsville and then come back to town. But because of gas shortage, we had to go and sit to our mother's office, and we sit down downstairs. Just in my school is out at 1:30, and we sit downstairs from 1:30 to 5 till she gets off because of gas shortage. And we're only for one trip.
Yeah, yeah,
I remember that very
yeah,
well. I remember that very well. I remember the problems with, like I said, LPMC. Just look at government schools. Just look at a prime example. Look at how government has managed government schools.
yeah.
How do you then tell government now we want for you to manage the supply of fuel on the market? What do you think is going to happen? Gabriel, I'll give you your closing. Go ahead, Steve.
Yes, and again, thank you for inviting me on here, and hopefully we added some substance. I mean, all of us added some substance to this discussion. Um, as Jimmy read the act that created the LPRC, I was kind of taken aback to learn that they were actually mandated to distribute fuel, which I thought was, I don't know what prompted them to include that in that, when they were being formed, because again, as we said on here, it puts them in direct competition to the private competitor, the supplier in the market, and I would say this, not continuing to say again, the only reason the state should be importing fuel should be specifically for national security, energy reservation, for reserve purposes in case something's catastrophic happen, not to directly compete with private sector supplier, and I think this is something maybe we can pull back on. If that was a mistake, we can pull back on it. If you want to generate revenue as a state-owned enterprise, there are many other avenues and tool in your toolbox that you can use, either from the regulatory standpoint, or even from, as I said earlier, from charging, a penny or 5 cents or 10 cents as every dollar gas sold, or even expanding. I think you alluded to that, expanding more fuel tanks to supply more people and bring more people on the market to compete. Right, you can do that, not to directly be a competitor in the broader market context, right? So hopefully they would put a brakes on that. Somebody will get into these people's ear and talk to them and say, if you do that, these are the economic implications that's going to happen. And perfect example, I think you alluded to that. We ran no cow to the ground. We ran, like you said, the government schools that were now look at the University of Liberia, how dilapidated that institution is ran. So there's evidence that when government gets into something to manage it, they ruin it, run it to the ground, right?
Yeah.
Lastly, as I said earlier on this whole fast and prayer, I think most of us here are religious, right? We pray, whether not everybody is flamboyant with their praying, where you got to be yelling. It's an intimate relationship with God,
It
right?
is.
If you want people to pray and invoke some kind of deity on the country for whatever you think is going to happen, there are times people go to church. Saturdays, the Sabbath, Sundays, when people go to church, mainly. Ask them. Take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes out of your prayer, your service, and pray. Do not shut down the country again for another useless holiday in a country that's not already productive. We are not productive in our country. And you're shutting that. Somebody should do the economic implication of shutting down the country for one day and
For one
bring
day.
it to his lap and send it to him. Say, when you shut down the country for one day, this is what the government is going to lose. Maybe it will put some sense in him to be able to take that back. But again, thank you guys for having me here, and it was great having the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jimmy. It's on you, man. You're muted. Go ahead.
Yeah, we talked about a few things. We talked about the LPRC finally picking up its role as a importer and distributor. What are the implications? We can only say that if it's not handled properly, we will start to see shortages again. Because the shortages occurred because those who were buying did not have any shipment available. So now with this new entrance, will that discourage those who are already there? We just hope it does not. And a lot of ideas are born, not bad ideas, but they have to be handled properly. So that's why I'll go right into the prayer, fast and prayer. Fast and prayer, there has to be a direct intent, and it has to be God guided. You leave it to people arbitrary. They don't know exactly where you're going. I think nothing's wrong with the call to fast and prayer, but it should be a guided prayer. Let the people know what they should be praying about specifically, and that we know, let us be united in thought, praying about the similar things, and then that's when it may take effect. But a good discussion. I think we're going to see a lot of changes in this with this government. I see it is definitely a different administration than the past, and it's every day is unfolding with something new. So I think we're in for a nice ride.
Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you to our audience out there for sticking with us. It was a Tuesday. There was much news, and we had to come out and discuss it. So thank you.
Jimmy sees a glass half full. I like the optimism.
Yeah, that's Jimmy. That's a different man. You always the glass half full.
178 years we've been praying. What has changed?
So
you know, Pastor,
You have to pray
that
for God to come down.
178 years. This is a different republic. We were barely surviving before. Don't compare that with today.
Right now,
I'm saying what has changed. I'm just asking what has changed.
You don't start new topic because we're barely surviving. Then we are barely surviving now. Trust me. Trust me. Okay, we are barely. There's an elite few, that are really thriving in the country, really, really thriving, and after that, there's a steep drop.
That's why we don't have a middle class in Liberia.
In order to create that middle class, we have to keep government out of business and encourage Liberians into business
and keep religion out of our lives.
Yeah, out of our public lives. Yes, I absolutely agree. If you want to pray, that should be your personal choice, your personal decision. The president can encourage it, but to mandate it, to proclaim it, So tomorrow I'll be watching my job. I'll be pulling me. I'll be on Facebook. any of the president's supporters I see on Facebook, I'm going to report that they're not praying. Okay, it's a day of prayer. He didn't say an hour of prayer. But thank you guys so much. It's good to end on a lighthearted note. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate it. To our fans out there, thank you so much for coming. We'll have more during the week. We have our different programs during the week. So watch out for Focus on Liberia. We'll
talking Thursday.
Yes, indeed. So until then, you guys have a good night and a safe night, and we'll talk to you then.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home.